playmakers on defense. None of those guys were like top 5 of their position across the league. They were great for the system they were in, but were they league best?
Ty Law made it into the Hall of Fame. I don't know how, but Ty Law made it.
Ty Law was a good shutdown corner. I'm sorry. I disagree with you there. Ty Law was a very
He was a
good
good shutdown corner. I don't think he was a Hall of Fame corner.
Well, anyway. Over the era that he played, I don't think anybody else was as good as he was over the time frame that he played. There wasn't a point to where it was like, I can argue this guy better than him again, in the same time, with a minimum of 5 years overlapping his career. Can I say this guy was better than Ty Law? So there's a lot of guys who overlap. And I'm pretty sure like a Charles Woodson overlaps him, and maybe who else am I thinking of? I don't think Revis does.
Revis overlapped at the tail end of Law's career.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. Are you talking about like maybe 2 to 3 years?
I think it was 5. I don't know. We'd have to look it up.
Can I just go back to one more?
It's a discussion for another day.
Before you move it on, go back to Tony Baselli. You were saying, a short career and all the rest of it. Yeah, he only played for, 7 seasons? But he did make the NFL 1990s All-Decade team.
How?
Oh, there you go.
He was injured for 4 of those 7 seasons.
He played from 96 to 2001. 2002, looks like he retired in 2002 with the Texans. He's probably done by then. He made 5 Pro Bowls, 3 first-team All-Pros, and he was in he was Offensive Lineman of the Year in 98 and the NFL 90s All-Decade team. He was a great player. It just wasn't for long.
All right, Revis only overlapped Ty Law by 2 years.
There you go.
Baselli only played 91 games, James.
Not a lot.
Not a lot at all. No, very short career. But to make the all-decade team in the 90s, that must have been must have been some great offensive tackles in the 90s. Wouldn't that still be the Jones and these kind of guys around then?
So who were the tackles for the Cowboys in the early 90s?
I have no idea.
I mean, seriously, because you think about the early – okay, if he made the all-decade team for the 90s, and basically he played the latter half of the decade, I'm going to the early part of the decade where the Cowboys had those dominant offensive lines across the board from tackle to tackle, and looking at those 2 guys on the outside. Like, those are 2 of the guys I would look at and be like, all right, how did Baselli beat either of these guys?
Okay, stop talking. The 4 tackles, the first team 90s NFL all-decade tackles were Willie Roaf and Gary Zimmerman. And the second team were Richmond Webb of the Dolphins and Tony Baselli.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go. No doubt. The only Dallas Cowboy in sight was Larry Allen, of course, at guard. He was second team.
Gary Zimmerman. I got to tell you, I don't recall much of Gary Zimmerman.
Oh, he was good. He was great. The Vikings and Broncos, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking through this list for any Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm not seeing any.
You're not going to see any on offense.
I definitely remember Willie Roaf. Willie Roaf is quite possibly one of the best tackles of all time.
What about oh no, I was going to say Dana Stubblefield, but he played defense, I think.
Nope, he didn't make it. The other 49ers tackle did. Brian Young, who was a finalist, wasn't he, here in this year's Hall of Fame?
Okay, I got nothing.
That's a great team. I tell you, I'm looking through this team. That's a great team. Wow.
John Elway was the quarterback from the 1990s first team. That's interesting.
First team?
Yeah.
Or second team?
Brett Favre.
Wow. Interesting.
Very.
I tell you, James, it's some team. Really is. It should be, of course, being an all-decade team, but my God, I wouldn't like to have run on that defense.
You know, it's funny. I've argued against Chris Carter in the Hall of Fame, and there he is, first team.
How could you argue against Chris Carter?
Yeah, how can you argue against Chris Carter? Not only a great player, but a great story.
I put him in the same group as Isaac Chris and Torrey Holt.
No.
I do. No. Jay, Chris Carter, look, for a long time, Chris Carter is one of the few wide receivers, probably the only wide receiver I could say, yeah, if you take away Jerry Rice out the NFL for these years that he's playing, Chris Carter is the guy. And not to mention, Chris Carter had what, a dozen quarterbacks in his entire career throwing him passes, and he still put up those numbers.
Plus his whole redemption story as well.
I mean, Buddy Ryan cut this dude for. Now we know, not because he only caught touchdowns, but because of his addiction issues when he was drafted by Philadelphia. Yep. And he got himself cleaned up and turned around in Philadelphia. So, I mean, Buddy Ryan, look, say what you will about Buddy Ryan. What he said was basically to protect his privacy at the time that he cut him, because when the line that he said, well, all he does is catch touchdowns that Berman runs with on, primetime shows and everything, was more so to protect Chris Carter's privacy as far as what he was going through at the time than to pretty much put him on blast. So, I mean, people ran with that saying that, Buddy Ryan cut him because all he did was catch touchdowns. He couldn't catch anything else. No, that's not true. We know that now, but at the time, people just ran with that story. Chris Carter was a monster, man. Come on.
He's got to be, he'll be in the top 5 all-time wide receivers.
Absolutely.
What great player he was, Jay. Jay, is it because the Patriots are out? Are you kind of having sort of like, are you shaking?
No, again, I think when I'm looking at receivers of the, and we've had this conversation too, the game has changed. Yeah. And you have Randy Moss, you have Terrell Owens, and you have Jerry Rice. Those are your top 3. I can't see putting anyone else at that position if Carter, they rank lower than those 3.
And first of all, I'd put Carter above either Moss or Owens easily.
Oh no! No! Yes. Steady on there. Yes. Steady on there. I would certainly have. I would have Rice, Moss,
Rice
Owens.
Is obvious. Everyone knows. So again, when you talk about wide receivers, Rice is the GOAT, and number 2 is like a distant number 2. Okay, we all know. So your wide receiver discussion is after Rice.
Okay, so let's say. Well, Moss for me, Moss, Fitzgerald, Owens, and Carter. They would do for me quite nicely. Carter was a great wide receiver.
Well, I can be convinced.
We don't need to convince you. We know you're wrong.
Oh my God. you do realize that when he retired, he was number 2 across the board in all those categories.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Only behind Jerry Rice.
Yep. Yeah. He's not gonna finish anywhere near 2 when all is said and done.
No, because inflated passing numbers and everything. I get that, but at the time he retired, he was number 2 only to Jerry Rice in catches, yards, and touchdowns.
The only other player in his era who was close to him would probably be the Oakland Raiders' Tim Brown. You remember him?
Tim Brown, right?
But I would still take Carter over Brown.
Tim Brown was second team on that all 90s team.
Oh yeah, so he is. Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. There's our Hall of Fame conversation, ladies and gentlemen. Take it, leave it, send us an email, send us a tweet. I'm sure you will disagree and you'll tell me I'm wrong, just like these 2 guys did. Speaking of honors, we have the NFL Honors Award Show, which will happen the day before the Super Bowl.
Are you going to?
No, I'm not going. I won't be there. Sorry. It's in Miami. Couldn't get a flight. So the question is, who do we think is going to be getting another nice little trophy to put up on their, bookshelf, wherever they put their trophies, their trophy case. These awards, I just want everyone to remember, are mostly voted on by the Associated Press. So a lot of these awards, we already know essentially who the winners are going to be, because a lot of the members of the Associated Press are also members of the Pro Football Writers Association, and they give out the exact same awards. And they've already announced who those award winners are. So we can still have a conversation, though, because I do think there's some interesting ones. I mean, the MVP conversation, Lamar Jackson is a lock. He's just going to take that. However, I do think it's interesting that Pro Football Focus, and again, be Pro Football Focus as it may, named Russell Wilson as their MVP for the 2019 season.
Okay. That's nice.
Which part of that did you find interesting?
Well, I mean, Russell Wilson was in the conversation at some point during the season. essentially the argument that was put forth by Pro Football Focus is that Russell Wilson's WAR, which doesn't exist in football, it's a baseball stat, was higher than Lamar Jackson's. Russell Wilson effectively was more important to the wins that the Seahawks had than Lamar Jackson. That was their argument. That was their argument.
Okay. Even if that's remotely true, the Seahawks still only won 11 games this year to the Ravens 14.
Yep.
Oh, I should say, sorry, to Lamar Jackson's 13 because RG3 won the 14th game.
Also true. You can also point to the strength of the teams that they faced, which of course they have no control over, but
they really don't.
Faced tougher competition than the Baltimore Ravens did.
But if you're taking all those crazy things into account, you might as well just say that Lamar Jackson wanted it more.
Right. Thank you, Neil. Are they basing that on how teams finished this year or last year? Because, one, their divisions played each other. Well, let's start there.
Listen, you can go and read the article if you want. So I'm not taking up the mantle of Russell Wilson. I think it's obvious that Lamar Jackson is the MVP.
Thank you.
This season. It's not even a question. But I did want to point out that there were others that disagreed with that particular assessment.
I mean, they had 6 common opponents. Let's take that into account, too. Both teams played the Niners, the Cardinals, the Rams, the Steelers, the Browns, and the Bengals.
James, in the interest of brevity, there's not a six awards here, so can we get through them?
Coach of the Year, I know, is going to be effectively a conversation. The Pro Football Writers Association, the Pro Football Writers of America, voted John Harbaugh, whom I believe is the hands-down Coach of the Year. And I know James is big on Tomlin. I will knock Tomlin down for the way that the Steelers ended the season. And Duck Dodgers proved not to be as good a quarterback as we thought he might have been.
He did.
I'm actually off Mike Tomlin because I expected the Steelers to make the playoffs, and they didn't. So yeah, I'm actually off Mike Tomlin for winning the award this year.
James, to be fair, he did unleash a smell in December.
Oh gosh. Still, though, he got to 8-8 with that mosh pit of who's who on offense at the skill positions and quarterback. So, I look, not a horrible season overall, but I mean, nothing to write home about. Would any other coach have done better or as well this season? Highly doubt it.
To win games with a farmyard animal as your quarterback, it's pretty good.
Yeah. To counter your hardball, I would throw in Shanahan and LaFleur just to counter.
Really?
I think a lot of I'm going to disregard your LaFleur right off the bat, and I will counter your Kyle in recency bias. I think Kyle Shanahan has really done a superb job in these playoffs. And obviously he did a superb job during the regular season too. However, I think he's really come to light because of the playoffs. I don't think everyone was talking about Kyle Shanahan as a Coach of the Year candidate during the regular season.
They weren't watching 49er games during the regular season. I mean, I was. And everyone, if you listen to this podcast, especially the Sunday recaps, you would know how critical I was of one Jimmy Garoppolo early in the season, even up until about week 10 or so.
And then you cursed him.
Yeah, sure, whatever. But that's not to take away the coaching job that Shanahan did with these Niners. And yeah, I think he gets some votes. I think LaFleur should get some votes. Look, Green Bay's 13-3 is probably the ugliest 13-3 we've ever seen because their point differential was 65? And that's the lowest it's been for a 13-win team. But he got them to the NFC Championship in his first year. How many rookie coaches do that?
Yeah. I think it's fair, James. I think that's fair there. I think Shanahan's fine. I mean, he has got to the Super Bowl with a backup level quarterback, so got to give him some kudos there.
Did you call Jimmy Garoppolo backup level?
I'm not arguing that.
Yeah, fair.
But look, both these guys got their franchises to 13 wins.
Yep.
that counts for something. And they were the top 2 seeds in the NFC. And I get it. The votes already were tabulated at the end of